somebody in the NFL is very, very, very rich. Very
rich. I mean, there's a lot of those.
Yeah, but this person, I feel like, is on a level of wealth that not only very few people can relate to, but also I don't think a lot of people would be very happy about. And that somebody is Roger Goodell. Because according to Adam Schefter, Roger Goodell is expected to receive a multi-year contract extension next week at the NFL owners' meetings in Phoenix. It'll be Goodell's fourth extension. Financial terms of the deal are unknown yet, but it's expected to be an incentive-laden deal and the most lucrative of any that any commissioner in any sport has ever gotten. And when you look this stuff up, the numbers vary a little bit. But he's already made, Roger Goodell that is, in the neighborhood of $500 million so far. $500 million for Roger Goodell.
Wow.
Yeah. So the question becomes, has he done a good enough job to warrant that amount of money that he has gotten so far from the NFL? And he's going to be sticking around for a little bit longer.
Well, I mean, he wouldn't be getting that amount of money if he didn't, put up the results.
Yeah.
So that's what you got to know is that it's such a lucrative business. Roger Goodell has been one of those guys who has done a whole lot in terms of creating new revenue streams, developing the development of how business is being done in the league. I mean, from abroad to whatever it is that's taking place with, any and everything that you can use and figure out to grow the bottom line. I mean, at one point, I'm not sure what the numbers are now in terms of what they're grossing, but I know it's been a few years now where that $8 billion number was the number that the league was generating. Well, a lot of that came from the stimulation of what Roger Goodell brought to the office, after Paul Tagliabue stepped down. So to answer the question, you have to say it's a resounding yes that he's deserving of what his contract is. If they're paying him $500 million to maintain his position, then you can only imagine what the owners are generating and what they're making off of the decisions that Roger Goodell is making in terms of how it's growing the sport or how it's growing the revenue streams for the sport. So
I think that the Roger Goodell conversation is interesting because he's no doubt made some mistakes. Like, I think everybody can agree to that. Him stepping in and wanting to be judge, jury, and execution when it comes to player punishments. Like, you look back at some of the length of punishments that players and suspensions that players received years ago, and you go, well, I mean, in comparison to, like, when Ray Rice only got suspended for 2 games, and they knew what was on that video. Bad look. And everybody saw the video, and then the video disappeared and all the other things that came along with it. Obviously, we know the officiating stuff is an issue. Like, there has been, everyone points to the concussion handling and CTE and all of that and the potential cover-up, if you will. There has been some stuff that you look at when it comes to Roger Goodell that you can question the job that he's done and why he would have done the things that he did. Minority hiring has been another one, like all sorts of. The one thing you can't question from a business standpoint, he's been fantastic because the league figures out a way every single year to add some other element that takes it to another level. Right when you think you've seen it all and there's going to be, they've hit their ceiling, they figure out a way, whether it's we're going to implement gambling, we're going to do a new TV deal, we're going to go to streaming, he's always finding another avenue to push the league from a business standpoint. And if you're an owner, isn't that all you care about? Like, how can you make me the most money possible? And from that vantage point, to me, I don't have a problem with the amount of money that he's made, understanding what it's done to help grow the game, his strategies.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like the mistakes and missteps, I mean, who's going to be perfect? you're running a multi-billion-dollar company from the nonprofit, from the 501c3 office. You're managing all of these tentacles. Who's not going to have missteps? I mean, the microscope on the league is so focused and so strong. Everyone looks, the media looks, everyone looks to have something to discuss that is controversial because they're on top. I mean, nothing is really comparable to what the NFL is doing in terms of what they're able to generate. So, of course, there's going to be things that are looked at and say, okay, he could have did this better. That could have been handled differently. That could have been handled better. But you're not going to have one person that takes a job of that caliber and they're not going to fall under the eye of scrutiny and not fall under the court of public opinion in terms of how things are handled and how things are managed. That's to be honest, Jonas, that's partially why you make that type of money as well.
Yeah.
Is to be able to take the darts, to be able to take the arrows and the bullets that come your way. I mean,
he's had to take a lot of those, by the way, where he's had to stand up there and get pounded with questions that owners don't want to answer.
There you go.
Like he's had to be the windshield for a lot of things that the NFL's tried to figure out a way around and have to answer for. And it's not a lot of owners who do it. It's Roger Goodell who's standing up there taking all the bullets.
That's correct.
But what is interesting about this, though, because I was thinking, so all the money that he's made and all this stuff that has come in, and people talk about the job that he's done, I still, and even though we're a couple of years away from it, the fact that we had a full season during the COVID year with no games missed. We had playoffs. We had a Super Bowl. They figured out ways to put games on Tuesdays, Wednesdays. And it's not just Roger Goodell. It's all the people that worked with him and around him. The fact that we were able to still have an entire season and the playoffs and the Super Bowl, fans or no fans, and they were able to navigate through all of that. I still can't figure out how they did it, because you saw a lot of other leagues that were folding. The NFL started on time and finished on time. There was the NBA went to a bubble. You had college football do this abbreviated schedule. Some conferences didn't want to play and some did want to play. They had games canceled. The NFL figured out a way to play an entire season, which to me is still shocking through the entire all of COVID, that we actually were able to watch games and see games played every single week. And I think that also is another credit to Roger Goodell and the people there at the NFL who put it all together.
It was a pretty daunting task. I mean,
crazy, man.
And with everything that you had to create protocols-wise to be able to do it. Now, one thing that I'll say is when you give a person the credit to being able to run things at a high level, you ultimately have to look at the team that they've assembled.
Yeah.
The NFL league offices has some of the best, brightest minds working through and navigating through, matters such as these that need to be, handled in the proper way, because that could have gone horribly wrong. It could have gone like somebody could have died. I mean, look at the way people reacted when we had the health scare with the Bills.
Yeah, DeMar Hamlin.
With Hamlin. And, could you imagine if someone had contracted or came up with COVID and passed away?
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
And also, for people that are out there saying, well, knowing what we know now, the likelihood of that happening was, well, the problem is we didn't know all that back then. In real time, nobody really understood what the hell was happening. You had theories, you had people throwing out their thoughts on things, but nobody really had an idea. So,
the wild thing about it is it's still out there. It's still a part of it. It's almost like we got to the point, that's what we do as humanity, but it's like COVID is still out there. People are still I get the reminder every day when I see people wearing masks. So now it's gone back to, it's weird to see people with masks on. Like, it's going back to that. It's not now it's weird to see somebody without a mask on.
Yeah.
It's now weird to see somebody with a mask on. And it's a reminder that people, that COVID is still out here. You can still contract COVID. You could still have the same results take place from COVID now that you could have resulted in having back then. So that is what it is. But I'm just saying, in a time and in a moment where it was so volatile, the conversation of it, the impact that it had on our world, not just our country, but on our entire world. This was a global pandemic. And so you're talking about going and still finding a measure of normal, a measure of hope. And the NFL was able to deliver. Yeah. And they delivered in a way where, I mean, look, I thought it was kind of weird watching the games with no fans in the stands. And then you wonder, how are you going to get back to normal? How are you going to get back to full capacity? Those were all conversations that needed to be broached as well. And you know what? They did it.
Yep.
They did it. And you do have to give credit to Roger Goodell being at the helm of the NFL and how everything was handled, because if it had gone wrong, whose head is on the chopping block? Roger Goodell.
Yeah, 100%. Same guy who's got to take the bullets for the owners was going to have to take all those bullets if something went terribly wrong.